Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. As mentioned in the daily financial news this morning, we are lucky and honored to have the CEO of Henlane, Dana, on with us this morning. How you doing, Dana?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Oh, I appreciate you giving us, this little window of time every other week because we get to talk about mom and pop landlords, something that's near and dear to my heart, big part of one rental at a time. And topic number one is things that landlords should think about outsourcing. I know you've collected a list of three, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. So I think as a mom and pop landlord, there's some that do it themselves, and there's some that hire a full service manager, and then there are some landlords who fall somewhere in between. I think regardless of where you fall in that bracket of what's best for you and your management, there's three things that you really need to consider from the outsourcing perspective. The first one is legal. Whether you're getting started as a landlord or whether you have been in it for a while and are dealing with an eviction, having someone there to help you and support you through that process. Everything from making sure you have a really concrete lease, so working with a real estate attorney on that, to an eviction. If you have an eviction, which we hope you screen tenants to reduce that risk to basically zero. But if you do have one, then you are going to have to consider what to do. And in those particular instances, having some sort of legal advice, whether they're taking you through the whole process or part of it, to make sure things don't get escalated, and that it doesn't happen again, is super important. So I think that the very first one is legal. That tends to be the most expensive, which is why I brought it up first. I'm a huge fan of flat rate for everything, of like, okay, if it's going to be hourly, every time you send an email, you're going to see those bills just rack up. So really understanding, hey, what is the average cost? What are we expecting for this? Is there some sort of flat rate to get this document or whatever it is you need? But I think you can really set yourself up for success on the legal side if you are having some support. That's not just you creating the document and going through the eviction process on your own.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Again, I've been doing this a long time, and let's just be real. There are some tenants that are called professional tenants. And I promise you, they know the eviction process better than tons of mom and pop investors. In fact, one of the transactions I completed during the pandemic was from a landlord who had just given up. They've been through the eviction process with the same professional tenant for 9 or 10 months. And we picked it up for a song. And of course, I paid the attorney, right, his full rate. And sure enough, 4 months later, they were out, which in California during the pandemic, 4 months was fast. I strongly recommend, even if you've done evictions and you've done the process, it's just not worth the headache. I would definitely pay an attorney. And again, fixed rate's the right answer, right? We're filing an eviction. What's an eviction cost? $9.95, $12.50, whatever it is. Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And then and where you are, the rates are so different. Like in Georgia, there's like flat rate evictions for like $390 versus in California and San Francisco, you'll see something over $1,000.
Oh yeah.
And so the best thing to do is make sure you have the quality. Also make sure you have a good price from that perspective. There's always a balance, right, between quality and cost.
It's funny you bring that up because I remember, talk about inflation. My evictions in Fresno, California back in 2002, because I had to evict my very first tenant, which I talk about in my book. It was a flat rate of $4.95. And the last eviction I remember paying for was $14.95.
Wow.
It's 20 years, but still.
20 years, but yeah.
It's still not $500 anymore.
Yeah, the process hasn't gotten better with technology or anything. It's still the same.
Still the same.
So great. The second one I have really has to do with the day-to-day. So the second thing that I recommend outsourcing is the repairs. And if you can, repair coordination. That way you don't have to be 24/7 and give your personal number. And the reason I say repairs is a lot of times landlords will say, great, I can just go and fix that myself. But then the question comes to chargebacks, or let's just say there's a move out and you've told the tenants it needs to be in the same condition as move in with the exception of normal wear and tear.
Mm-hmm.
You get there and, you know, the baseboards need to be washed down. The oven needs to be clean. You get into a really interesting situation if you do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you try to say, oh, well, it would have cost this much, and you don't have the receipts and documentation of a third party doing it.
Yeah.
You kind of open up this can of worms of a tenant being able to say, well, how do you know it really was that much? You know, you got this quote, but they had an hourly rate. How did it really take you that long to do it if you're doing it yourself? And so I'm a big fan with the repairs of making sure you document that and have third parties to be able to do that. So if it's a turnover and the cleaning wasn't done, telling the tenants, listen, you'll be charged for this, and it's a third party doing it. I don't have an affiliation with them from the perspective of they're not my friends, it's not my family. This is actually what the cost is to pay for it. And that just really sets up this professional nature with landlording.
Yeah. I mean, again, the other thing for me, having done this for so long and talked to so many, why are you really doing this, right? You're getting into one rental at a time or become a landlord because you're trying to earn freedom and continually taking your scarce hours, which again, you probably work, you probably are raising a family, you want to be healthy, you want to do this, you want to do that. And then out of nowhere, you got to go do this or that. Certainly outsourcing repairs and yeah, the repair coordination as well is something I hear it all the time. I want to do it myself. So I learn. Trust me, I made that mistake. I remember the first time Olivia and I went to go paint a unit because why are we spending $900 to, you know, slap paint on the wall?
Painted. Yeah.
We did it badly. It had to get redone. Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. Yeah, it was bad. So why are you really doing this? So that's, you know, there's one thing if it's screwing in a light bulb or something of that nature, but
yep.
Yeah, there's quality, speed, receipts, all that stuff. So good point.
Yeah. And you want to spend your time looking at your next investment, figuring out how to plan, figuring out if you are a W-2 worker and have a career path at your own company because you're looking to purchase more rental properties. How do you really focus on that and that career? And so that you have the capital to go buy more properties, eventually get out of your W-2 job. Exactly. And so you really need to think about it that way. And you're right. I think that no one values people just don't value their time. They don't think about how much that costs for them to do and that opportunity cost. So I think that's super important.
Totally agree. All right. What do you got for number 3? These are good.
3 is accounting. This is one because of taxes. Things are constantly changing with taxes. I'll say that much. But I also think that, you know, there's great ways to pay your taxes. I used to do it through TurboTax, which was fantastic when I was single, didn't have any rental properties / didn't have a primary residence. And suddenly it got to the point where it's like, oh, I could still keep doing this through TurboTax. But once we actually hired an accountant, he actually made us rethink about everything, which goes back to the legal structure, how to think about things, what are tax incentives you have with real estate. And so I think it's really important to have an accountant to help you with that and to continue to hold you accountable for how do you make this passive and also receive all the benefits associated with owning real estate. So I do really think it's important to have an accountant. Also just someone to check your books and numbers. The worst thing is to have the IRS come after you with questions. And you definitely don't want that, especially if you have your properties in an LLC. LLCs definitely get screened a lot more and audited a lot more than other business types. And so highly recommend making sure you have an accountant, making sure you understand what you can write off, what you can't write off, et cetera. And great accountants on real estate will even give you advice of like how to structure things to even take more advantage of it. Yeah, so accounting is my 3rd one.
Yeah, accounting's a big one, folks. Again, as an accountant, right? That was my first job out of college. I could do my taxes. And ever since the year we started buying property, we started paying someone. And, you know, for 20 years, you know, I got a couple of letters from the IRS saying, hey, we're questioning this and that. No big deal. But just last year, I guess it was, what year are we? Yeah. So it would have been December of 2020. I got the full audit from the IRS.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Full audit, right? In the middle of a pandemic, right? So get the full letter. We're going to audit 2019. We have 17,000 questions. And oh, by the way, we think you owe a lot of money. I reached out to my accountant. My accountant gets involved. He's also happens to be my attorney for real estate. And as soon as I identify him and sign a attorney, whatever the letter is, they talked. They spoke for 11 months. I think I had to produce like 5 or 6 evidence proof, which were just 1099s or W-2s, a closing statement here or there. Nothing egregious, stuff I had in the file. And 11 and a half months later, my gargantuan tax potential liability ended up being 0. IRS sends you a nice letter saying, thank you, we've gone through the full thing. Everything is good, done. So I would have been terrified to work with the IRS by myself. But having a CPA involved, it certainly wasn't fun because, again, the IRS, you're nervous. I'm always conservative, but you just don't like that. But yeah, full on audit, deep dive. I don't know. I think it was really like 37 or 38 areas they've identified, and half of them went away fast, and the other half took a while to go through. So John, thank you, buddy. You're awesome. And I'm working with them right now on this year's taxes.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's an anxiety level, to your point. It's like with the legal stuff, with the emergency repairs, with the accounting, with the IRS, it's anything that brings up your anxiety, makes you say, I want to 100% get out of this. So as much as you can have professionals, leave that to the professionals, you will have a lot more of that passive income that you want to deserve.
Yeah. I remember the first time I got a letter from the IRS, I want to say it was 2013 or 14. So if you guys don't know, the IRS can really do, I'll call them 2 types of audits. I don't know if that's the right verbiage, but one is they send you this form letter. It's about that thick, right? Or that thick. And basically says, we have a question about your 2018 or 2013, I don't know, stock sales or something, right? There's a line item that they have a question on. And they say, we think you calculated that wrong. And oh, by the way, we think you're wrong and you owe us this much. You have 30 days to respond, else interest is added on, right? And my initial reaction was, oh my God, I'm gonna write the check, get this behind me. Call my accountant way back when. He goes, no worries, I'll take care of it. I'll respond for you. Taken care of in a couple of months. But then there's the full audit, the thing that I just went through for the first time. That is a deep dive, every page, every amendment. It's so worthwhile having an accountant. And I spend thousands of dollars every year. I'm so happy I do.
Yeah, great. Anything I missed? Is there anything else you have as far as outsourcing?
The only other one is probably one people are already outsourcing, and that's really part of the tenant selection. It's obviously credit checks and all of these other things that you are paying for. But some people don't do them, right? They just get this feel and the vibe and all that nonsense. You have a box, a credit box, or an applicant box. Use it. Don't go based on feelings. For sure. So no, I think that was the only other one that's kind of out there.
Yeah, the credit and background checks is huge. It used to be actually that you would have to have a file cabinet in order to run them on your own. Yeah. This was back in the day, the credit bureaus, you would have to have someone representing the credit bureau come confirm you had a closed door office and a filing cabinet, and proof that you owned the properties, and then you could run online background and credit checks. Now what's great is that has completely changed. Yeah. You don't have to, you can just go online and fill out a couple of questions. Yeah. But I think you're right. The best professional tenants are good salespeople. They will come in, and I think that they are the best tenant. And then you run their credit and you're like, oh, they have 3 evictions. They have 3 evictions, and who knows how many more that weren't on their record.
Yeah. And 3 judgments.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So this is really cool, folks. Again, being a landlord is fun. Self-management is awesome, but realize you don't have to do everything. And if you're looking to use a platform, Hemlane is the one that is part of One Rental at a Time. Dana, you've actually created some videos and people how to use your 30-day trial. Where can they get the 30-day trial?
Yeah, you can get the 30-day trial by going to www.hemlane, which is HEMLANE.com, and then click the try 1 month free. So you can actually do it yourself. Through one rental at a time, you get the PDF. For part of the paid course, you also get the videos to watch. And then you can just test it out with, even if you're just purchasing your first property and you want to test it out, you can put in a property address, go through the entire process, practice being a landlord for 30 days.
Yeah. And if you're new to the course and you don't have your property yet, I suggest getting you and a friend involved in using the trial. Be a tenant, be the landlord. Really push it. Really make sure you get what it's like to interact with tenants, file repairs, collect rents, things of that nature. Thank you for doing that. I know that was a lot of work putting those videos and the PDF together. We appreciate you. Thanks, Dana.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.